all about it. That was real good. That was money, first of all.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I am Chris Knight, and you are watching The Real Review 3000 here with a great topic today. Before we get to that topic, I apologize for last week not uploading anything. We were working on some new programs, trying to program them to have easier recording so I can record quicker, get more content out for you guys. So I apologize, but at the same time, I thank all of you for being understanding. Tonight, we will have the Gospel According to Chris, as usual, and this week, hopefully, we'll have lots of different uploads for you, at least 3, like I was doing before. Today's topic is really exciting, something I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. What's the exciting topic? It's reboots and remakes. And now everybody's like, wait a minute. Reboots, remakes, who wants to talk about this? Well, we're not going to talk about reboots and remakes so much as my rules for if you should or shouldn't make a reboot or remake. Let's be very clear. Some reboots, some remakes are more sequels than they are reboots or remakes. Sometimes they are sequels, and they've just been so far down the line that they're more like a rehashing of the original story, so you could almost call them a reboot or a remake of the original. Much like the 1990s or late 90s, early 2000s, Gone in 60 Seconds. It's a reboot or remake of a late 1960s, late and early 70s movie of the same name. And the main character, is Memphis Reigns, and it's the same in both. Nicolas Cage plays it in the new one. And there's vague references to the original movie being the past of this character in the new movie. So it's almost a sequel, yet it's basically just a retelling or a different way of showing the same movie made over. But it's really actually a really good example of what a reboot or a remake is, or what it should be. Another one would be Ocean's 11, and we'll go through the rules. I'll make some examples to those two movies because they're really simple to explain why they were worth making. I do have some rules here. They're not very many of them, but those rules are pretty simple. First rule, is it necessary? Is this making this movie? Is it necessary? Is it adding anything relevant to the world? Does it tell us something new? Is it just, is it worth the time? By saying that, is it relevant to the times? Is it something that we're dealing with right now as a society? Is there something that's interjecting into the world around it that's absolutely necessary? Today, it seems all too often that a reboot or a remake is just made because it's there. It's the easy thing to do. It's 5 seconds. Look, we're just going to rehash a couple things. We're going to make it live action now, not animation. Yes, I am directly pointing to Disney. All this stuff, it just needs the simple question. First off, is this necessary? Are we just plain mailing it in by doing this? Or are we actually adding something relevant to the current movie culture? 9 times out of 10, it's not. I will go and place Ocean's 11 in the yes, it's relevant, or it's necessary, because it was a full-on reimagining. They told the story differently, and relevant because in many ways the story they're telling is relevant to anything. It's about a man who actually cares about an ex-wife, and he does everything in the world to get her back. And I mean, how is that relevant in today's world? Well, all guys who have ever lost a love of their life or anything like that understand that you'll do anything for it. And so it's relevant. People understand it, and so it makes it necessary. They're not retelling the whole story in a way that's the exact same. So it has some plus sides to it. Rule number 2, does this stay true to the source material, or does it at least honor it? We'll go to Gone in 60 Seconds. Gone in 60 Seconds uses the same main character's name, Memphis Reigns, and there's references to the fact that he is a former car thief, and kind of references the original movie. So there are ways that they honor the original movie in this. And then it does stay true to the source material because he is a car thief in the movie, and he has this history of this. So it all follows the exact same format, but it tells it in an entirely new way with a new storyline. So it comes across more like a sequel, but it was more considered a remake or a reboot of that whole thing. The same thing kind of goes with Ocean's 11. It is true to the source material that it's about robbing casinos. And I won't go into the whole thing. If you haven't seen the original Ocean's 11, I won't tell you the storyline. Go watch it. It's really a good movie, but it's a completely separate and different movie from the remake with George Clooney. They don't follow the same storyline. It's a completely different plot. What they do is completely different, even though they are stealing from a casino like in the original movie. How they do it, what they do, the end result is completely different. This is important, is to honor source material. And when you talk about redos or remakes and even sequels for that matter, we'll throw them in on this, things like The Force Awakens and then The Last Jedi, they don't honor source material like they should. There's nods to it here and there, but most of it's conjecture. Most of it's stuff you have to come up with yourself. Can you explain what they're doing? Sure you can, because you can go back and find it in the source material. But the fact that they don't reference it and they don't tie those movies together is what's important, and they don't do it. Back to the Future, when they did the sequels, they did every time. They made jumps from one to the next. When they were in the third one, they made jumps all the way to the first one, and vice versa. And they're all together, tied together. The timelines were jumped between, and you saw the 50s in them, you saw the 60s, the 80s in them, and they're all jumped together, but they're all part of a cohesive film. You could literally cut the beginning titles of 2 and 3 out, and the end titles of 2 out, and 1 out, and shove them all together, and it would make one long cohesive movie that would work really well and flow well from one to the next. This is important, because you're honoring source material. People say, well, that's easy to do when you're talking about sequel. It isn't always easy to do. Yes, Robert Zemeckis did the directing. He was involved heavily in all of it, so it makes it easier. But when you're talking something like Star Wars, it's a lot harder because Star Wars has relied on different directors, especially the original trilogy. George Lucas was there, but he was still not the director, so his vision wasn't exactly put on screen. It was another director listening to what George said and putting that vision on screen. So there was different viewpoints on it, but they all honored the source material. In this trilogy, in the new Disney Star Wars trilogy, the problem is there's no talking. The left hand is doing one thing, the right hand is not following or not listening, or one of those things. J.J. Abrams, as far as I know, wasn't even involved in The Last Jedi. If he'd at least been there and said, well, I wouldn't do this because this doesn't follow what I was trying to do. And I understand you don't have to do exactly what I wanted it to become, but you have to kind of follow it so the storyline follows this storyline, so when we get to the third film, we can continue on. Taking a sharp left turn, as they did with The Last Jedi, is really a problem situation, and they caused that for themselves because nobody was listening to each other, and that doesn't help. So honoring source material, even in sequels, is really important, and that requires communication amongst many people: editors, directors, producers, studios. And you have good examples. Robert Zemeckis, for instance, and his Back to the Future trilogy, and that all was done very well. And then you look at the new Star Wars, and that is a very good example of how not to do stuff. We'll see how it turns out. Maybe they'll right the ship. It's highly doubtful that they'll right it completely. They've probably saved it from completely sinking, but there's casualties and there's still water on board, in my opinion. Let's go to rule number 3. If it is a reboot, does it reference the original, or does it ignore or disassociate with the original? This goes in line again with sequels even. We'll go with Ocean's 11 again. Does it reference the original? Sure it does. It's done in Vegas. There's slight nods to the actors and actresses that were in that movie. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. They're referenced, and being in Vegas the history of it, if you know anything about it, you know that they were a part of that town. So it is an honor to the original film just to hold it in Vegas and to be doing the same exact thing. But they also implied that they were honoring it, and at the same time completely ignored it. So this is kind of against this rule too. In one scene at the very beginning, when Rusty and Danny Ocean are standing outside in this parking lot, the camera is facing them from a certain direction where it shows buildings and stuff behind them. And what happened is the director intentionally did that because if they had turned the camera all the way on the other side and shot it the other way, you would have seen a mural of the Rat Pack. And he said, I wanted to honor the movie, but I didn't want to reference the movie. I didn't want anybody to think of the Rat Pack in this. I didn't want to directly tie it to the original that had the Rat Pack in it. I wanted to make our own movie, but I wanted to show and pay homage to the original film. And the way he decided to do that was one of the scenes in one of the warehouses is actually off of Dean Martin Drive or Boulevard, whatever it's called. And so he picked locations that if you knew Vegas, you knew this, and you got the slight references. Also, the fact that they're at these casinos. That whole movie, the original movies, is all at casinos. It's the same idea. It's a heist. They're stealing from casinos. So they honored it without actually referencing it entirely. So it was done very well. And again, we'll go to Gone in 60 Seconds. They do mention that Memphis Reigns has retired, left car stealing, and has now come back to help his brother in this movie. So they do honor the original by kind of implying that this Memphis Reigns is the same Memphis Reigns that has done this before. And if you've seen the original movie, or if you did research and found out about the original movie, you would actually be able to say perhaps this is a continuation of that story. But they honor it by also using the Mustang they used, the Fastback Cobra. That's the same Eleanor, not the exact same, but it is a reminiscent of the same Eleanor, which is the name they give the car, as in the original one, which was also called Eleanor. So the fact that they use the ladies' names for the different cars is exactly the same as the original. So there are very poignant references to the original. The director and the people who made the film did make a conscientious effort to use things from the original film to tie them together. The last one, rule number 4. As a movie studio, you have to ask yourself, are we doing this just to make money? Just to push politics? Are we making a superhero movie and gender swapping to try to make a point, to make people see things our way? I understand that movie companies are out to make money, but they're also entertainment, and they should care about the people who are out there that they're making entertainment for. And by caring, you would actually try to put something out there that isn't just a political statement or to make money. Disney constantly is taking movies, and they're taking their cartoon movies or their animated movies, and they're making them live action. Why? Can we not just re-release what you already have done? You've done it for years. Every 10 years, Little Mermaid gets replaced or comes out with a Blu-ray, or back in the day it was from VHS to DVD, and their anniversary editions and all this. And they've done it for years with all of these movies that they have, the huge backlog or the huge catalog of animated movies. They've done it for years. Why not just do that? You're going to make money off of it anyways. If it's just about money, don't remake it. Just put out the old product. Because they've done so much to harm what they already had done. And originally they did that anyways. They took a lot of old fairy tales and twisted them to be Disney. And they made them Disney-esque. And they changed a lot of the true story to get what they wanted. But we were okay with that. We grew up with those cartoons and all. But now you go and change it again, and you inject gender and ideology into it and politics into it. Now you aren't doing it for the right reasons. Be original. Find something new to give us. We know it's for money, but Give us something new. You do not have to force your politics on us for us to watch a film. And in fact, we don't want to watch your politics. Have your politics, say what you want about your politics, but don't force them down my throat. Give me something new. Give me something that's different and reimagined completely and not a reboot or a remake. Because I don't need you to change somebody's gender to try to tell me that inclusion is dead, because it's not dead. You had it before, you'll get it again. Just be natural about it. Too many times these movies right now are being made for money and to force a political agenda. And that's not what movie making is about. Movie making should be about putting something new and imaginative out there, especially with Disney. Imagineering was a name that they had years ago when Walt Disney was still alive. And literally all the Imagineering is dead. There are no Imaginists anymore. And it's a sad thing. With that said, guys, that's my 4 rules for reboots and remakes. Hopefully you agree with me. If you didn't, don't hit the like button if you don't want to. I would appreciate it if you would hit the like button. Please do, because it doesn't hurt that like button. But if you didn't like it, go ahead and hit the thumbs down. It's fine. I understand. But leave me a comment. Let me know what I missed, what I didn't bring up, where I'm wrong. Just let me know. If you did like it, again, hit the like button. Leave a comment anyways. I don't always expect comments, but when I get them, I answer them. And I'm always looking for constructive feedback and criticism, and also suggestions. If you have a suggestion, put it down there in the comments, or you'll see at the end of this video, you'll see that I have an email I can be reached at, and we have a website now, chaoscentral.com. Check that out. Also hit that bell down below so you can be reminded when we're coming out with new stuff. With that said, I am Chris Knight. This is the Real Review 3000, and thank you, and have a nice day.
Hey guys, thanks for checking us out. Be sure to subscribe to both channels, and make sure to check out our friends in the Fandom Menace. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and BitChute, and you can also send us an email at sean@seanstackhousereacts.com and Chris Knight at therealreview3000.com. And be sure to swing by our Teespring store to pick up some awesome merchandise.